I feel like I could be a good matchmaker.
I know Maya, you do.
No. You've tried to matchmake me.
Maya's tried to matchmake both me and Annika.
I genuinely
failed.
Wait, I don't think we've had time to realize if it's a failure or a success yet. It's still budding.
For one of us, we have.
Sometimes Maya will show me someone and she'll be like, okay, I know he's not the cutest, but he's so nice and you should give him a chance.
Because I look for personality.
No, yeah, okay. Maya definitely looks at personality because she'll go to some random dude in the bar and be like, yeah, Vidushi, this is the one for you.
Wait, Maya just walks up to guys at the bar, points to one of us, and is like, they said you're cute. And like, keep in mind, the person in question has been pipsqueak silent. They haven't said, like, she's actually just a gaslighter.
Wait, and then one time Maya did this to me and she like went up to someone and she was like, oh my God, and then ran away.
No, I'll look at them and I'll be like, oh, I messed up right now. I should not have opened this conversation.
God. Like, for real, your vision is so impaired.
We should do the intro, shouldn't we?
We can do the intro.
Welcome back to Get the Check. I'm Maya.
I'm Annika.
I'm Vidushi.
I'm Priya.
And today's episode is about Match Group. Match Group is a company that owns many dating apps. They got their start with Match.com, hence the name Match Group. And they now own Tinder and Hinge, which are two top dating apps as well. Today we'll be going over their founding story, how they've grown to the revenue and scale they are at now, and some larger conversations in dating apps, particularly like how it relates to AI, whether AI will make us more lonely, less lonely, and how dating apps are performing as a whole across the market.
I guess to start, we can discuss the way that Match Group grew into what it is today.
Yeah, it started with this guy named Gary Kremen. Back in 1995, domain names were really hot, and so this guy decided to just buy a bunch of domain names. So he bought jobs.com, housing.com, autos.com, and the last one was match.com.
Dude, those domains alone are probably worth millions of dollars.
So much money.
And so at that time, classified ads were really popular. So people were putting all kinds of things in these classified ads, job postings, selling houses. And another thing was dating. People were putting themselves up on these classified ads, open to date, saying that they're single. And so they decided
that's such a shameless thing to
do. I know,
way
to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
It's good to be vulnerable.
Yeah, so they decided to take that experience and make it online. But the first problem that they hit was, okay, they have this website and it's all men on here.
Yeah, this was actually really funny because they couldn't figure out for the life of them like why women weren't signing up, to the point where they started taking the questionnaire to women and just like watching them fill it out, and women would like audibly gasp and be like, oh my God, what is this question? Like, I think some of them were like sex positions or something,
and one of them was weight. Like, what girl wants to put her weight on her profile?
Yeah, so they shortened the profile a little bit, made the questions relatable to women. They also hired women on their team to make sure that those people had an influence, and they specifically targeted young people to reduce the stigma of online dating. So all of this combined kind of contributed to their massive growth over the next 10 years.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense because when I think about something like online dating apps today, I think there's still a stigma that exists. And so the thought of that like 20 years ago, I'm sure it was really difficult to actually acquire users.
So once they had gotten a bunch of users, they caught the eye of IAC and they sold to them in 1999. IAC was a group that had a bunch of other businesses, and they decided to form Match Group under IAC as part of the dating industry.
Yeah, so by 2010, they hit $1.6 billion in revenue, and this is when their strategy starts to come in of trying to diversify and actually build a really large brand of different dating apps.
They realized that dating apps are built around niche communities and try to service different types of markets. So some dating apps try to be more casual and some try to be more formal. And so this is when they find OkCupid, because they're trying to find a more casual version of online dating compared to Match.com.
Yeah, after acquiring OkCupid, which was more casual in 2011, they have the creation of Tinder from their own incubator. They have Plenty of Fish that they acquire in 2015. And then we'll get into it more later, but they also acquire Hinge in 2018. So if you're downloading a dating app, you are engaging in their ecosystem for the most part, besides Bumble, Grindr, and then on the long tail end, there's obviously other ones as well.
So this is also coinciding with the era of like mobile apps in the early 2010s, when mobile apps are getting really popular. It can be compared to the mobile gaming industry at that time. We saw lots of companies like Zynga, for example, pop up with many little games. And so games would kind of come and go, be really popular, and then die. And I think similarly, Match Group saw that with dating apps, where it wasn't always clear what dating app would do well. So they positioned their strategy to just acquire all of these dating apps to see what would pop. And I think that just mirrors the mobile gaming app industry pretty well.
Yeah, so to get into Tinder's story and like what made it unique from other apps in the past, the first one is that it trended more casual and it also gamified the experience. So like everyone knows Tinder because of like the ability to swipe through people, and so that was really the first of its kind.
They also featured like way shorter profiles. Like I think it would take under 5 minutes to set up a Tinder profile as opposed to like Match.com where it takes like 20 to 30 minutes. And then the second thing was this feature where you can only communicate with people who you've matched with. And this decreased the fear of rejection in general versus like traditional dating apps, you would just reach out and see if people would want to respond to you.
Right, because you don't even know if you have both liked each other until you're already matched.
Exactly.
The other thing they did was use location, and so you were finding people around you. And they weren't the first people to do this. Grindr was actually the first ones to do this, but they really like popularized this idea of location-based dating.
So Grindr was the first app that used location in dating, and they started in 2008, right when third-party apps were allowed on the App Store. And the founder, who was a gay man, wanted this app that's specifically targeting gay and bisexual men to be very based on geolocation. When you logged on, you actually saw yourself as a little profile square and then how far everyone else was from you. So you'd see the profile closest to you and then second, third, etc.
Wait, so you could like be in a bar and just pull up who else is on Grindr to see?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
that's
if
like
there's-
still how it works today.
Because as a gay guy, it's harder to find gay guys than as a straight guy it is to find straight girls, because as straight people we just assume everyone in the room is straight.
I see that. So basically Tinder piggybacks off of this location-based idea and uses it themselves, and that also contributes to their growth over that time. So to cover their growth numbers, in 2014 they were completing over 1 billion swipes per day. So this made them just a very attractive company. And so Match Group approaches them and merges with them for approximately $3 billion and brought Tinder under the Match Group umbrella. And this happened in 2017. So by the end of that year, Tinder actually accounted for 31% of Match Group's annual revenue, which was generating them $400 million. So like that was a crazy
Huge
jump. Like to basically say like 1/6 of your price to buy this company was covered within the same year of buying that company is a wild statement to make, in my opinion.
But then Tinder and Match Group are basically this toxic relationship after that because they have a lawsuit and I want to say messy breakup, but they're still together.
Yeah, so in 2018, Sean Rad files a lawsuit saying that Match Group undervalued them deliberately to bring down the price, which I found was really interesting because I assume like an acquisition is like you're agreeing upon a price. So like since he's the co-founder, he's definitely agreeing to this $3 billion price.
I assume, obviously we only have so many details on what happened, but my understanding of it is there was a bank representing Tinder and there was a bank representing Match Group when deciding the deal, and these banks were negotiating. And they obviously have their own financial models that are tracking like this acquisition or this merger. And in a financial model you have assumptions and then you have facts, right? Like you have revenue numbers, which is a fact, and then you have an assumption like the future growth rate.
Growth of it.
And Tinder basically claims that even the facts of the model were wrong. So while the assumptions might be something they go back and forth on, they say that Match Group basically lies in their materials about the numbers that Tinder is putting up.
But don't they have their own calculations of that?
Yeah, like don't they have their own bankers
like
representing
during
them
the negotiation?
I guess I just find it like counterintuitive for you to agree to a payout and a price and then walk that back. And I think it's partly because maybe Match Group just like bullied them into the acquisition.
Yeah, they basically found that there was some manipulation of financial data, and they're probably trusting maybe even the same bank to some degree. At least one of the banks was being fed just wrong information. And getting paid out $441 million out of $2 billion in damages, I mean, it's almost 25%. So to be paying out hundreds of millions of dollars, you obviously did something wrong, in my opinion. I think it's really unlikely they didn't falsify financial data. I also think that if you don't falsify financial data and someone claims that you did, that's not that difficult of a thing to prove. And to your point, Maya, I feel like you have a lot of leeway to be like, they agreed to the acquisition price. And I think because you can say that, in order for the other side, like Tinder, to win, to actually win, you probably had to really do something bad. And it's in line with the rest of Match's persona. Like, they seem to be this
the bullies, yeah.
Yeah.
They do seem to be bullies.
They're like this toxic guy that's just has like 3 different ex-girlfriends or current girlfriends that like hate them.
Yeah.
Current girlfriends.
So yeah, they acquire Tinder in 2017, and then they go and start to bully Bumble and try to acquire Bumble in 2018.
They don't succeed in this acquisition, though.
Yeah, so the backstory there is that Whitney Wolfe Herd is an early employee of Tinder in 2012, and she's super crucial to their marketing, ultimately ends up being given a co-founder title, and in 2014, she leaves. And so she files a lawsuit for sexual harassment and discrimination against Tinder and Match Group. And the context there is basically she was dating one of the other co-founders, Justin. And when they broke up, it was super messy. They were trying to remove her co-founder title from her. And so she goes to Sean Rad, who's one of the co-founders, and explains everything that's happening. And he basically takes no action. So the action that she ends up taking is filing this lawsuit. And then what ultimately ends up happening is they settle out of court, which is classic for them, for $1 million. So Whitney receives $1 million from the settlement.
I feel like that's
a cheaper for them than the last one.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a pretty small price. But during this lawsuit, she goes to start Bumble, which is a very similar app. You know, you still swipe right, it's location based, but it allows women to start the conversation first. And I think this is kind of a clap back at Tinder and her time at Tinder in general, and giving the power back to women in the dating app space. And Bumble does well.
And I will say Whitney brings a lot of what she brought to Tinder to Bumble, because Bumble has what I think is considered the most marketing genius across the dating apps, where they're doing all these in-person events on college campuses. And that's actually something that I've seen replicated across so many businesses now. Like, when I was in college, I was actually a college rep for a coffee company. And I think now it's just kind of a lazy cheat code almost, where people are like, oh, just put a bunch of free stuff on college campuses and then like kids will adopt it over time.
Yeah, and so they were becoming really successful. And so they obviously at that time, they caught the eye of Match Group. So Match Group is on this wave of trying to acquire a bunch of dating apps. By 2017, they have around 25 apps in their portfolio. So they set their eyes on Bumble and they make an offer for $450 million.
Yeah, and then Bumble basically says no.
They say that they're worth actually $1 billion.
But then Match Group is like, okay, we'll pay you $1 billion, which is interesting because the whole idea of Match Group undervaluing companies a lot comes back, because going from a $450 million valuation to over $1 billion is pretty crazy.
Yeah, so Bumble still doesn't take it, and in March of 2018, Match Group then sues Bumble for patent infringement and misuse of trade secrets.
Yeah, and they are specifically suing over this swipe to match feature, which is interesting because now I feel like swipe to match isn't that crazy of a feature, but I can see how at the time, if Tinder's the first to do it, they feel like maybe they have a copyright over it.
Wait, so is swiping to match a patented design?
So Tinder does have a patent on it, but Bumble claps back on this idea that they can't use it. And Vidushi, I think you have the exact language of what they said.
Yeah, Bumble essentially says that you can patent innovation, but you can't patent abstract ideas. So they're saying that the swiping mechanism of that app is more of an idea rather than an actual invention.
So they challenge the actual patent itself being valid.
Right.
But then they also have a clap back. And Bumble basically says, we swipe left on your attempted scare tactics, and on these endless games, we swipe left on your assumption that a baseless lawsuit would intimidate us. And they publish this publicly.
They print a full ad responding to Match Group, and at the end of it, they said exactly what Annika said.
But basically, they also countersue Match Group, and the reason for the countersue
for
$400
million.
Yeah, it's a $400 million countersue, which is basically the entire value of how much Match Group originally thought they were worth. The industry basically thinks that Match Group is trying to bully Bumble into having to accept a lower bid because they don't want to pay more, and also is creating this entire lawsuit to scare any other buyer off. Because if you have a number 2 player currently getting sued by a number 1 player in the market for core functionality, even if you believe the number 2 player is in the right, that's not something you're going to suggest to acquire.
Yeah, I'm sure Match Group was basically saying, if you want this lawsuit to go away, accept our acquisition offer.
I wouldn't be surprised if some sort of investor on Match Group actually said those words. But
so in July 2020, they decided to just settle. They said, all right, we'll drop the lawsuit. You guys drop it. And they don't actually disclose the terms of that settlement, but basically stop, suing each other.
Yeah, so at age 31, Whitney becomes the youngest woman ever to take a company public.
That would make sense.
And she also becomes a billionaire in the process.
Yeah. So then we start the Hinge acquisition story. Hinge was founded, I think, also in the early 2010s, and they specifically do a rebrand because they're seeing declining user rates, and so they eliminate the swipe feature in 2017 to make more intentional relationship building features. So they were kind of departing from the Tinder craze.
It's important to note that Hinge basically goes from tracking user engagement, which is what everyone in the space is tracking, and the typical things you track, like how many times someone opens the app, how long they spend in it, to how many dates someone's going on. So they create a KPI that's really specific to the dating app industry. And even today on Hinge, it'll ask you if you've met someone in person. And I don't think any other app asks you that.
And Match Group was looking for an app that appealed to a different demographic than Tinder because they knew that diversifying their dating apps portfolio was positive for them. And so in June 2019, Match Group acquires them for a steal, $25 million, which is crazy to the kind of revenue they book today.
Yeah, and it takes them about a year to see any growth from that rebrand. And so I think that they acquired them at like the perfect time, right before Hinge basically skyrockets.
Yeah, so I think the reason why it took a long time for Hinge's strategy to see success makes sense because in 2017, Tinder was still at the peak of their success. They were still growing pretty crazy, and people needed to be tired of Tinder's casualness to want to use Hinge. Like, I think Tinder being that casual is what made them so big, and then Hinge specifically not being casual and being more intentional is what made Hinge so big.
I think this is really interesting because from my perspective, looking at my friends, in college, Tinder was really big. And now basically I don't know anyone that has Tinder and everyone has Hinge. But I always thought that shift was us getting older. But it turns out the entire market was shifting that way. Like, people getting tired of dating app hookup culture wasn't age specific.
Yeah, and I think it's like people just wanting to go back to having a higher level of connection and like not feeling as disposable or disconnected from the process the way you might feel in Tinder.
Yeah, it's the same with like fashion cycles too, where it's like things like trends become oversaturated, you see a departure back to old trends, and then old trends resurface continuously. I guess you're seeing it in dating apps now too. And we might see it in the future after like Hinge maybe dies down. We'll see Hinge grow, and I don't know, in 2026 we could be sitting on this couch talking about a dating app making things more casual again.
I hope not.
Well, hopefully we're all in stable relationships by then.
The stable call out is crazy.
Oh,
The hopeful call out is crazy.
Yeah. Wait, I think like 2026 is too soon. Like, can we do it later?
Oh, Dushi, please don't say that.
I need more time.
anyways, so now in 2024, Match Group's portfolio makes up of both Tinder and Hinge as their top two best performing apps.
Yeah, so Match Group's entire current revenue right now is $3.47 billion. Of that, Tinder makes 60% of it, so $1.9 billion, and Hinge is around $400 million.
Oh, okay. So Hinge still hasn't hit the revenue that Tinder has.
Yeah,
Right.
and that was honestly surprising to me because I feel like to what we were just talking about, Hinge is what seems to be the most popular among people today.
Well, Hinge's revenue growth has been 40 to 50% year over year in the last couple of years, versus Tinder's revenue growth has been around 1%.
Basically nothing.
Or basically nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like, so basically Tinder's revenue growth was 123% from 2015 to 2019, and then from 2018 to 2022 it's been only 22%. And so I think it's like that 1/6 of the revenue growth they used to have, and now year over year the revenue's flat, is really interesting. And they've been trying to grow their revenue by squeezing more money out of a declining paying user base. So most recently, they actually launched a $500, $499 technically, a month plan for elite users. And I just like can't imagine who would pay $500 for Tinder.
What, are you like serving up women and men at your door with that?
I cannot imagine what you have to provide to pay $500 a month for a dating app. They also have a lot of a la carte features. So Hinge, usually when people pay for it, they'll do some type of a monthly subscription, even though they have a few a la carte things, like you can send a rose, which is like a super like. Tinder relies way more on buying like super likes, buying boosts, all these little things that in some way help you. And people's tendency to want to spend on that has gone down a lot.
Yeah.
So in that way, it could be that like a la carte features are just not as popular because there's stigma about it.
Yeah. And I actually have friends that are a little bit older than we are, and they do pay for Hinge Premium, and it's because they want the granularity that you get from paying for something like that. So like when you have that, you're able to filter by height, or you're able to filter by these additional
features. Okay.
Exactly. And so I think it perfectly fits that narrative of like the people that they're trying to get to pay for Hinge Premium.
I think it's helpful also to zoom out and maybe look at the industry as a whole, since there are so many players. So to summarize what we've already covered, we see that Tinder, the biggest player, is around flat in their revenue growth.
Yeah.
We see that Hinge, which is the number 3 player, is growing well at 40 to 50% year over year. And then Bumble revenue is up 11% year over year. But then when you zoom out and look at the entire industry, you basically see that revenue growth has decreased a lot.
Yeah, and to contextualize the year-over-year growth rate for dating apps, within the technology sector, we see an 11-ish% year-over-year growth rate.
We're seeing that app downloads has decreased 6% year-over-year, so there's still new users downloading the app, but it's less, whereas in most industries you would see more.
So essentially, my hypothesis would be from that is that like users are just transferring from app to app.
We are seeing that Hinge is taking a greater share of Bumble. Like Hinge and Bumble are seen as relatively direct competitors for downloads now. And when you look at graphs of their respective shares of new downloads, Hinge is starting to catch up to Bumble.
So there's still a lot for these companies to do in order to gain more penetration in the market. I think there was a stat that 70% of single people actually don't even use a dating app.
Yeah, and that's 70% of single people looking for a relationship. It's not even just single people in general.
And I honestly see dating apps as like a form of social media. Other single people I know they're all using social media. So it's like specifically that they don't want to use dating apps.
And I feel like the single people we know do use dating apps because we're in SF, which is a major city. But I think having Hinge downloaded on your phone and actually using it are two different things. Because out of my friends, even if someone uses Hinge, it's like, for a lot of people, they'll use it for a couple weeks and then they're fatigued by it. Or like they feel like they should go on a date, but then they don't want to.
Yeah, and I think that transitions really well into the user trends that we're seeing. One of them being that we see a high turnover in young people. So people like downloading the app, using it for a few weeks like we're seeing, and then deleting it, versus there's a lot more loyalty in older users. But this high turnover that we see with young people, a lot of it is just due to their feelings of dissatisfaction, the apps being impersonal, transactional, and ultimately just feeling lonely.
I mean, it's dehumanizing to just swipe on 100 people in a 5-minute span.
And superficial, like so superficial.
And I think a lot of people have easy access to dating apps. You don't feel like settling because it feels like there's endless options. Whereas in 1950, a man only saw 10 baddies in his entire life, probably. And so by the time he saw the 7th baddie, he knew in the next 3 baddies, he had to lock one down.
Yeah.
Now you could see a million baddies. There's infinite
That might be like
baddies.
too many baddies, actually.
And I think a lot of people don't have superficial values in what they want in a partner. I feel like we don't as people, but you're forced to have superficial values on a dating app because you don't have much access to other information.
Well, that just gets into the larger trend of the loneliness epidemic and how technology is contributing to people feeling more lonely. Approximately 58% of US adults are considered lonely, and specifically younger people are more affected. 79% of adults aged 18 to 24 also report feeling lonely as well, compared to 41% for seniors.
Yeah, and I think it's like older people and the older generation was forced to form like really deep and meaningful connections with people versus younger generations tend to form relationships with people online, or they're very connected to their social media.
Yeah.
And so because of that, they actually end up feeling more lonely.
And this is driven by what they call the dopamine cycle in relation to like social media, where when you use social media, you get on a dopamine high because you have like these expectations of all these likes and comments on your posts. And then after that, you experience the dopamine low,
This is me when I post our TikTok clips.
So this cycle increases feelings of loneliness and then continues to drive more app use. Social media apps definitely know this. Like, I'm sure the executives are aware of this and preying on the downfall of young people. And what's crazy is like dating apps are kind of doing this too.
They're gamifying the entire experience of forming a relationship. So kind of getting you hooked on to the entire flow of finding people, matching with them.
Yeah.
Maybe meeting them, not meeting them.
And that's, again, similar to the social media cycle, which is increasing your loneliness.
Yeah, I think there's an emergence of AI and an increase of using AI within dating apps. And I think that'll be interesting to see how that contributes to that cycle. For example, Match Group has a partnership with OpenAI for 1,000 of their enterprise licenses. And we also see a new feature by Grindr called AI Wingman, which uses AI agents. An AI agent essentially adds a layer on top of the chatbot that communicates with an external data source to perform some kind of extra action. So it can keep track of conversations, date other agents, or even if you set up a date with someone, it can make that reservation for you.
Yeah, and it can basically take action on your behalf without your direction. So with a chatbot, you might text the chatbot and say, look at my match with John Doe, what should I say next? Versus with an AI agent, there's like a personalized suggestion of what you should say based on everything you've previously said, everything they've previously said, and everything the chatbot knows works to say to a dating match. And so they might say, we think that you should say, let's go out to drinks, and then suggest this place that the chatbot knows is in like near that other person's house.
So now instead of me running to Annika's room asking her for help, I'll just ask my AI agent for help.
I'm literally going to be useless by 2025. And for now, all these features are opt-in. Grindr has emphasized that they want to use this to help solve the loneliness epidemic, which is also the paradox of how we need AI and technology to be able to meet people efficiently and effectively.
Yeah.
But then Grindr is basically thinking of expanding beyond even just dating with this feature.
Like a networking app, essentially.
Yeah, like building a community for all.
It could be networking, it could be roommates. Like one of my friends, they use an LGBTQ app to find roommates in general because you want to live with some people similar to you. So Grindr could be a way to find roommates too. And then you would only be talking to people that want a roommate. You wouldn't be talking to people that want a one-night stand.
Yeah. Bumble does something similar, but they segment it by feature, and they use like Bumble BFF for you to like find new friends in the city, specifically not romantic friends. And they're trying to prove value proposition beyond just the dating app. Because like you said, the paradox of dating apps being designed to be deleted, these companies are trying to figure out how to stay in people's everyday workflow with also succeeding in their mission of connecting people.
Yeah, they even have Bumble Biz, which is a more professional networking one.
Yeah.
And Bumble is also very much on the AI train. They are already using an icebreaker feature that uses some AI, and they've also talked about AI clones. So there could be an AI Annika that knows how I talk. And let's say there's another person on Bumble, our AIs could have a conversation before we ever even speak to each other. And it could be like you can look at your chat with a person and you see your AI's talking and it just says like AI Annika. Or it could be like that conversation's completely hidden from users because maybe that's a
kind of
weird thing.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to see that.
Yeah, so but maybe what if they don't show it to you and they just you just have opted into it though? Like, you know how Hinge says most compatible? Maybe you get a Bumble match and it says most compatible because your AIs have talked versus whatever Hinge is using right now, which is probably just like mapping out who likes who and deciding it based on that. Like if you
I'd love that.
Yeah.
I guess I'm like almost curious though if this is gonna hurt the app rather than help it, because I could imagine then you have like less matches and then you as a person just feeling like you're gonna be going on like less dates, because most times when you like match with someone and you talk to them, it doesn't work out, it doesn't turn into a date. And so if your AI clones like do that process for you, you'll actually feel like less fulfilled.
I don't think it'll be implemented the way you're saying. I think it'll be implemented the way Hinge does most compatible, where you have the same number of matches. It'll just say like your AI agent. It'll find a better way than your AI agents, but it could even just say most compatible.
I would almost challenge the narrative of, will AI actually make more efficient matches? It might not change the problem. Like it might just like continuously still give you these matches, and while it's like scientifically a better match, like the user still feels this constant cycle of getting matched, it not working out, feeling depressed.
Yeah. So then I guess the question is increasing investment in AI the right direction for dating apps to go in, or should they be focusing more on in-person events?
I almost think like the AI feature is more of just like a top of funnel strategy where it's like grabby enough of like, oh, like I'll download this app because they have all these AI features and it should be better. And I don't think it really matters if it's actually better or not. And then in terms of like in-person events, I think that actually will be more successful. This company called The Next Fun Thing does events, and they try to match people in these events, and they say that there's an 80% chance of matching with someone just by showing up to their in-person events. So like the in-person events are like very successful. Eventbrite also posted that speed dating event popularity is up 64%. So there's this trend of in-person events, but essentially like I don't think there's one better than the other. Like I think it's all just like customer acquisition strategies. I don't think they're actually trying to solve the problem of matching people faster.
If I was Match Group, I think that I would use a two-pronged approach that used AI and in-person events because they're not mutually exclusive at all.
Yeah.
And I think that AI has scale. Like AI is very scalable, and these companies are having a hard time scaling their revenue. Even things like Tinder's AI is going to help people pick the 10 best photos in their camera roll and things like that. So it might make people's profiles better, have initial conversations so matches are better, but then you can have another side of it where you promote in-person events, which is less scalable and probably only going to be in cities like SF in New York and LA and maybe a couple others. But I think you could have a tab where people can join in-person events because I'm sure we've seen it, there's so much saturation in that market right now. Like there's Matchbox, like Palm House and SF will have like speed dating where there's a stage, but everyone else that comes is usually also single looking, too and like looking.
Yeah, it's just like in-person events are not operationally scalable the way that like app software is.
But I think that they could charge really high ticket prices. Like I know Matchbox in New York is like $40 just to go to one event.
Yeah, and Bumble has started to implement the strategy. I think they were always like the most in-person friendly, like with the events on college campuses and stuff. But even post-pandemic in 2022, they started doing in real life events again. So they would partner with like SoulCycle or Topgolf and then host events in these cities so that you can not only meet other people but promote the app.
And it's great for the brand as Bumble, Hinge, and Tinder battle out for market share because I know that at least at some point, maybe not now, Bumble was the cool brand because they were all over college campuses and they would give out their merch. It seems like they didn't continue pursuing that strategy because I stopped hearing about that, but at some point that was a good strategy because when people hear Hinge, like you're kind of like have a naturally negative reaction.
What I'm hearing is that we're all kind of converging on an opinion that like these are all ways to increase like top of funnel engagement and like customer acquisition to then trickle down to conversion rates to then make more revenue. But that the problem lies in the fact that like they need to get monthly active users up and like downloads up as well.
I'm curious, do you guys think that any of these apps and or the industry is going to turn around? Because when you look at the 5-year stock outlook, like post-COVID, these stock, like some of them are down 90%. They're doing so bad.
I honestly don't think that they can turn it around. I think that like maybe on an extremely long time horizon, like 20 years maybe, but I think that as a society we're moving so far away. Like at least the age demographic that is using dating apps is like moving so far away from the like being online constantly.
Yeah.
I think though that it'll go through another cycle. Yeah, right now people want to go back to in-person events, but it's just like a symptom of 2020 and 2021 being completely online and people craving that in-person interaction again, I think we'll cycle back and we're going to rely on dating apps again.
So yeah, to summarize, like Match Group is currently the largest market shareholder for dating apps at 30%. But the only reason they're staying there is because they have Hinge as a dominant market player right now that is increasingly growing, and they need to figure out more strategies in order to increase number of active users and number of downloads. Otherwise, there's kind of an impending threat to their viability long term.
And so is that going to be through AI or is that going to be through in-person events? I guess we'll find out and see.
Well, speaking of dating apps in general, Annika, you've had some success.
Yeah, my last relationship was someone I met on Hinge.
Wow.
And how did it go?
Well, we would have never met if it wasn't for Hinge. Like, we had zero mutuals.
Yeah.
But in a way, that was good.
Yeah, and in a way, it wasn't. But, I think it's good because you meet people you wouldn't otherwise meet. But then in another way, I think you have potentially less in common in what you like to do, how your friends are, how you were raised. So
but then what made you like want to go on the date with him in the first place? Was it just like you saw you had things in common, or just cause?
It's because she thought he was cute, bro.
Is that the only reason, really?
Well, what else makes you go on a Hinge
I
date?
don't.
He just seemed cool.
I feel like
and
I do
normal.
it for.
What do you do it for?
I just feel like there has to be something in common or something I actually want to get to know more about. Like, okay, there was a guy that I saw on his profile. He had a lot of things about basketball, and like I enjoy watching basketball and following it, and so that's like what our conversation was about, and that's why I decided to go on a date with him.
I feel like you're a demisexual. Well, I'm so excited today for our restaurant pick of the week.
Restaurant pick of the week.
Woo. This week's restaurant pick of the week is...
Bonsang. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right.
You are. It's modern Korean food.
It is.
Yeah, it was really good.
I'm a big fan of
of
Korean
dishes.
food in general, and I feel like they were able to make it kind of upscale in a really nice way.
It was one of our first dinners together in the city. You should go and tag us when you're there.
We'll repost it. Thanks for listening. Tune in to our episode next week, Thursday at 6 a.m. Bye.